The rain hit the earth like 1,000 fists. And Elena Navarro knew with a shaking certainty that if the storm didn't kill them, the hunger would. She crouched beneath a split cottonwood trunk, her soaked hair plastered to her face as her baby little Mateo wailed against her chest. His cries were thin, exhausted, and desperate, the kind that stabbed a mother straight through the ribs. Water streamed down her cheeks, mixing with tears she no longer felt. Her hands trembled as she wrapped her frayed shawl tighter around him. Though the cloth was drenched and useless, lightning cracked across the sky. White as bone, Elena swallowed hard and whispered into Mateo's hair, "I know, mi cielo. I know. Mama's trying." But the truth was brutal. She had nowhere left to go. The wagon that had carried her from Santa Fe had snapped an axle 2 days earlier. Then the man who promised her work in Canyon Ford stole her mule in the night, leaving her and Mateo stranded in the mountains with only a stale loaf of bread that was now gone. She had walked miles toward what she believed was the main trail, only to stumble into a storm so violent the world itself seemed to be coming apart. The rain was relentless, cold, needle-sharp. It hammered the earth and turned the ground into sucking mud. Her boots were ruined. Her legs burned. Mateo's wails grew softer, dangerously soft. No, stay with me," she begged, rocking him, but the world around her offered nothing but darkness and the roar of the storm. A gust of wind tore through the branches overhead like a scream. Elena looked up and froze. A horse, a massive, dark-coated stallion, stood 15 paces away, rain streaming off its flanks. Its nostrils flared, steam rising in the cold. On its back sat a man, a towering figure, soaked, broad-shouldered, with long black hair plastered down his muscled back. His chest was bare despite the cold, and heavy tribal necklaces of carved bone and turquoise hung against his skin. Raindrops gleamed across the sculpted lines of him like silver. He didn't speak, didn't move. He simply watched her from the saddle, his expression stern, unreadable, almost carved from stone. Elena's heart pounded. A warrior, Apache by his markings. Maybe Mescalero. She had grown up near their lands, and though she held no fear of them, she knew better than to assume safety in the middle of a storm. She tried to lift a hand, but her strength faltered. "Please," she whispered, barely audible over the rain. "My baby." The warrior dismounted in a single fluid motion, boots splashing in the mud. He strode toward them with silent speed. Elena flinched as he crouched before her, but he did not reach for her. Instead, he examined Mateo's face, then her shivering body. "You will die here," he said, voice deep and low, accent thick but clear. I know," she whispered. He stood and extended an arm, gesturing toward his horse. "Come," Elena blinked through the rain. Why help me?" Lightning flashed again, illuminating the warrior's eyes. They held no hatred, no impatience, only a fierce, quiet resolve. "Because the child cries for life," he said, "and the storm must not take him." Her throat tightened. Her chest cracked with emotion she was too exhausted to hide. She tried to stand, but her legs buckled. The warrior caught her easily, one strong arm sweeping beneath her knees as if she weighed nothing. He lifted her and Mateo both and carried them through the churning rain. Elena clutched Mateo tight, staring up at the warrior's jawline, the sharp planes of his face, the water dripping from his lashes. She would ask his name, but her teeth chattered too violently. He mounted his horse with her in front of him, his powerful arms caging her insecurely as he held the stale. "Reins, hold the child," he instructed. She did, because there was nothing else she could do. The horse lunged forward into the storm. Elena pressed Mateo to her chest as the wind tore past them. The warrior's body was warm against her back, radiating heat like a furnace even in the freezing rain. His heartbeat thumped steady, grounding. She was half certain she was hallucinating. They rode for what felt like hours through ravines, across rocky slopes, past thunder that rolled like cannon fire. Finally, the warrior pulled the reins and guided the horse into a narrow cave hidden behind a cluster of boulders. Warmth, stillness, safety. Elena gasped as the sudden shelter enveloped them. The warrior dismounted, lifted her down once more, and guided her to a flat stone bench near the back of the cave. A small fire pit lay there, old but usable. Without a word, he knelt and began gathering dry sticks stored in cracks of the cave wall. He moved with precision, striking flint until sparks leapt. Within minutes, flames flickered, casting gold across the cavern. Elena held her hands toward the heat, sobbing quietly as Mateo whimpered against her chest. The warrior set a leather pouch beside her. Food. Inside was dried meat and a small lump of soft bread. Elena hesitated. For us? She whispered. For the child. And for strength? His tone left no room for refusal. Elena tore off soft pieces and pressed them gently into Mateo's mouth. He latched with a desperate hunger that made her heart ache. When he was fed and calmer, Elena finally looked at her rescuer fully. Thank you, she whispered, voice cracking. I thought we were going to die. The man watched her with the unwavering intensity of someone who understood life and death far too well. My name is Cael, he said simply. Elena, she replied. And this is Mateo. Cael nodded at the baby. He is strong. Stronger than the storm. Elena wiped her wet face. You saved us. Cael didn't look away. The storm saved you. It brought you to me. His words sent a strange shiver down her arms. Not fear, but something deeper, inexplicable. She studied him, his features sharp and commanding, his presence overwhelming yet calm. A protector. A survivor. A man carved by wilderness and war. Why would he help a stranger? Before she could ask, Cael rose and walked toward the cave entrance, listening to the storm with a predator's focus. Elena called softly, Will you leave us here? He glanced back, eyes dark and unreadable. You and the child will remain until the storm is done. After that? His gaze flicked over her, assessing, calculating. Your path will depend on truths you have not spoken. Her breath stalled. He sensed something. Saw something. Something she had hidden for months, something dangerous. Elena's fingers tightened around Mateo protectively. How much did he know? And what would he do when he found out? The fire crackled softly, but inside her chest, fear warred with the growing spark of trust. Because she had no choice but to rely on this man, and because something in Cael's presence told her he had far more secrets than she. Did secrets tied to the storm, secrets tied to her fate. And the night was far from over. The storm had begun to subside by the time dawn bled pale light into the cave. Drops of water clung to stalactites above, and the air smelled of wet earth and smoke. Elena sat huddled near the dying embers, Mateo sleeping against her chest, his tiny hands clutching her shawl. She tried to savor the fleeting warmth, but unease gnawed at her. Cael had been silent all night, standing watch at the cave entrance like a sentinel carved from shadow and bone. Finally, he turned, rainwater dripping from his long black hair. His chest glistened from the storm, muscles tensed, eyes sharp. You survived the night, he said simply. There was no praise in his voice, only a fact that hung heavy in the damp air. We survived, Elena corrected. Thanks to you. He did not respond immediately. His gaze swept the cave's mouth, scanning the surrounding hills, muscles coiled like a predator. Then, without preamble, he said, You are being followed. Elena's blood froze. Followed? By who? Cael. Crouched beside her, speaking quietly, low enough that Mateo's light breathing was the only other sound. Men, armed, dangerous. They want you for reasons I do not yet understand fully, but I know enough. They would see you and the child dead rather than living. Elena's mind raced. She had kept her past buried deep. The journey west from Santa Fe had been meant to escape whispers, debts, and the shadow of men who had threatened her after her husband's disappearance. She thought leaving would end it, but evidently it had only followed her. Why? Why me? She asked. Her voice quavered. Cael's eyes met hers, unwavering. Because of who you are. And what you carry. Her stomach twisted. Mateo stirred, fussing in his sleep. Elena stroked his soft hair. What does that mean? Cael shook his head, his black hair falling forward. You will learn. But for now you must move. They will not wait for the storm to clear. They will come once the hills are dry. Fear gnawed at her, but it was tempered by gratitude. This stranger, a man carved from wilderness itself, was protecting them. For reasons unknown, he had chosen her survival. I don't even know if I can trust you, she admitted, and yet. Her voice broke. I have no choice. Cael nodded once, curtly. Good. We leave at first light. He gave her dried meat and fresh water from a small leather flask he had kept hidden beneath his cloak. The simple act of nourishment, though meager, felt like salvation. Mateo ate eagerly, his small body already regaining warmth and color. Elena studied him, and then she studied Cael. He had a presence she could not define, part protector, part storm, part danger. After a tense morning of packing what little they had salvaged, they mounted Cael's horse. Elena clung to Mateo, wrapped tightly in her shawl, while Cael guided the horse through narrow ridges and over mud-slicked stones. He did not speak much, allowing the silence to stretch, punctuated only by the sound of the horse's hooves in the softening mud. Finally, they came to a low-lying valley. From the cover of trees, Cael halted. He dismounted, crouched, and gestured for Elena to follow. Stay quiet, he whispered. You will see them soon. From the tree line below, figures emerged. Rough men, their hats pressed low against the morning drizzle, rifles slung carelessly across their backs. Their faces were hardened, sunburned, scarred. Elena's heart pounded. She recognized one Sheriff Trask, a man notorious for his cold efficiency and cruel tendencies. The others were his men and perhaps hired guns. They know, Elena breathed. They know I'm here. They do, Cael said. And they will not hesitate. You must trust me completely. The men below moved slowly, scanning the hills. Cael motioned for Elena to stay down, his hand brushing her arm in a gesture that was both commanding and oddly comforting. Hours passed in tense silence. Elena pressed Mateo to her chest, feeling the tiny, steady heartbeat against her own. She thought about her life before this, the farm outside Santa Fe, the small cabin she had hoped to fill with laughter before tragedy struck, and now she was running for survival with a man whose name she barely knew, who had emerged from the storm as if conjured from the wilderness itself. Then Cael's hand tapped her shoulder. He pointed. We move now. They slipped through the trees, winding along hidden paths and rock formations that seemed impossible for anyone unfamiliar with the terrain. Elena's legs burned, her arms ached from holding Mateo, but there was no time to falter. Suddenly, a rifle cracked from the ridge above. Elena screamed, clutching Mateo as a bullet tore into a tree just inches from her head. Cael reacted instantly, pushing her behind a boulder and drawing his own weapon, a carved revolver that gleamed wet in the morning light. They've found us, Elena cried, her voice almost drowned by the storm's aftermath in the valley. I think so, Cael muttered, voice calm, eyes scanning. He fired once, then again, the recoil steady, controlled. The sound echoed through the valley. The men below ducked, scattering behind cover. Elena's chest heaved. "We can't keep running like this," she whispered. Cael studied her, expression unreadable. "No, but we will not fight unless necessary. Survival first. Escape first. Revenge later, if it comes." They slipped through a narrow canyon, the wet rock slick beneath their boots. Cael carried Matteo briefly, then allowed Elena to take him again. His pace was relentless, and Elena marveled at his stamina. How could a man endure so much, she wondered, and yet seem untouchable by fear? Finally, they reached a hidden cave high above the valley, a natural fortress. Cael ushered them inside. Warm air from hidden vents made the chill tolerable, and a small stream of fresh water ran nearby. "Here," he said. "They will not find you. Not for a long while." Elena sank to the ground, exhausted. Matteo yawned, finally allowing his eyes to close. For the first time in 2 days, she allowed herself a small sense of relief. Cael leaned against the cave wall, his eyes closing for a moment. Then he opened them again, sharp as flint. "You are not safe yet. These men. They are connected to a man named Caldwell. He wants something from you that you do not even understand yet, and he will not stop until he has it, or you are dead." Elena swallowed. She had suspected that the debts she had fled were minor compared to something larger, something dangerous, but hearing it confirmed sent a shiver down her spine. "Why me?" she asked again, desperation creeping into her voice. "What do they want?" Cael's gaze softened slightly, just enough for her to feel a strange warmth. "Because they do not understand what you carry. You are more than you seem, Elena. And if they take it from you, the world will change in ways they cannot control." Her pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" He shook his head. "Not now. You must rest. The child needs you. And you need to be ready." Elena pressed Matteo close, feeling his small, rapid heartbeat against her chest. She felt a new resolve forming inside her, tempered by fear and desperation. She had been running for her life, but now she understood she was running not only from men, but towards something far greater, a truth about herself, and a power she had yet to realize. Night fell, and with it, the cave became a sanctuary. The fire flickered against the walls, shadows dancing across rough stone. Cael remained near the entrance, silent but alert. Elena watched him, wondering about the man who had appeared in the storm, who had saved her life without question, yet carried secrets he refused to share. Somewhere in the distance, she knew, Sheriff Trask and Caldwell's men were searching. But she also knew she had a protector, and for the first time since her journey began, she allowed herself a flicker of hope that tomorrow she would learn more. Tomorrow, the chase would resume, but with Cael by her side, perhaps they could survive what came next. And as she drifted into a light sleep with Matteo's soft breathing in her ears, Elena realized something dangerous and exhilarating. For the first time in her life, she did not feel entirely alone. Not with Cael, not with Matteo, and perhaps not even in this storm-torn world. The dawn was pale and fragile, the sun barely prying through clouds that still threatened rain. Elena stirred beside Matteo, the baby's soft whimpers a reminder that survival was still fragile. Cael was already awake, crouched at the entrance of the cave, eyes scanning the distant hills with the precision of a man who had lived his life in open wilderness. His bare chest gleamed with dew, muscles taut under skin pale and wet from the previous night's storm. "Elena," he said quietly, "we do not have much time. They will not give up, and Caldwell's men are clever. You must hold Matteo close and follow my lead exactly." Elena nodded, wrapping Matteo tighter in her damp shawl. The warmth of the baby against her chest gave her strength, even as the fear inside her tightened like a steel band. They descended from the cave slowly, careful to leave no trace in the mud. Cael led them through a narrow canyon, over jagged rocks and under twisted mesquite trees, the wind whipping their hair across their faces. Every shadow could hide an enemy. Every distant crack of wood could signal a rifle. "Elena," Cael murmured, his voice low and calm. "This way." They arrived at a hidden valley, a natural fortress formed by cliffs and boulders. A stream ran through it, clear and cold. A small copse of pines and juniper provided cover. Here, for a moment, Elena felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps they could rest safely, at least until Caldwell's men moved on. But as she bent to wash Mateo's face in the stream, she noticed footprints fresh and deliberate. Her heart sank. "They've been here," she whispered, voice trembling. Cael's eyes narrowed. "Sheriff Trask. He is watching us." "I suspected as much. We must move again soon, but first—" His gaze softened, unexpectedly. "Rest while you can. The child must eat and regain strength." Elena knelt by Mateo, feeding him the last of the dried meat and soft bread. His small fingers clenched hers as he ate, and for a brief moment she allowed herself to breathe. Then came the sound of hooves. Elena froze. Cael's hand shot out, silencing her. He moved forward, silent and deadly, peering through the trees. A group of men emerged from the mist. Sheriff Trask at their head, rifles ready, eyes cold and calculating. "They've found the trail," Cael murmured. Elena's chest constricted with fear. "We can't fight them all," she whispered. "Mateo," Cael said. "No noise. Follow me." They retreated deeper into the valley, where Cael revealed a hidden passage between two cliffs, a narrow fissure that led to a cavern no one could see from below. Elena squeezed through, holding Mateo tightly as Cael brought up the rear. The passage opened into a spacious cavern, dimly lit by natural skylights in the rock. A waterfall trickled into a pool at one end. Elena exhaled slowly, grateful for the sanctuary. "We can hide here for now," Cael said. "But they will return. Caldwell will not rest." Elena studied him, noticing the tension in his body, the way his jaw clenched, the alertness in his eyes. She had seen him face danger, yet something about the situation unsettled him. "Cael, what exactly does Caldwell want from me?" she asked, her voice almost a whisper. Cael's eyes darkened. "Something you carry. Something that can't be bought, traded, or stolen easily. He knows you have it, and he will stop at nothing to claim it." Her stomach dropped. She had tried to leave the past behind, to escape debts and whispers. But it seemed that nothing could shield her from Caldwell's shadow. Suddenly, a sharp sound echoed in the cavern, the clatter of rock against stone. Elena jumped, clutching Mateo. Cael's hand went to his revolver, body tense like a panther ready to strike. From the shadows, a figure emerged unexpected. Not Trask, not one of Caldwell's men, but a woman, tall, thin, with sharp features and eyes like dark glass. Her smile was polite, but there was a coldness beneath it. "Elena Navarro," the woman said, voice smooth. "I've been looking for you." Elena tensed. Who are you?" "I am Lark," the woman replied, "and I've been sent by Caldwell to ensure you come to him safely." Cael's hand tightened on his revolver. "You will not touch her," he growled. Lark's smile widened slightly. "I mean no harm. If she comes willingly." Elena felt a sickening twist in her stomach. Something about the woman's presence set her on edge. Lark stepped closer, glancing at Mateo. "And the child?" "Very precious, yes?" "Caldwell will want to see that too." Elena shook her head, clutching Mateo tightly. "I won't go with you. Never." Lark's eyes flicked to Cael, and for the first time, Elena noticed a subtle nod from Cael. He stepped forward, blocking her path. You think you can bargain? Cael said, voice low and dangerous. You do not know who I am. Leave now, or you will regret it. Lark tilted her head, amused. You are brave. For a man outnumbered and alone. Cael's jaw tightened. He moved closer, eyes locked on hers. I am not alone. Before Lark could respond, a whistle pierced the air. Elena froze. From the cavern's mouth, Sheriff Trask and his men had discovered the fissure. Their rifles raised, Cael grabbed Elena and Mateo, moving them toward the pool at the back. Water splashed as they waded in, hidden partially by the shadows of the cavern. Stay low, Cael whispered. Do not make a sound. Trask's men entered the cavern, scanning, rifles raised. One of them spotted the glint of water and fired. The bullet struck a rock near Cael's feet, showering sparks. Cael reacted instantly, pulling Elena and Mateo back behind a large boulder. Move! He hissed. Through the tunnel. Elena scrambled, clutching Mateo, following Cael as he guided them through a hidden side tunnel. They emerged outside the valley, far from the pursuers. Rain had returned lightly, masking their tracks. Elena collapsed to her knees, gasping. Mateo whimpered, exhausted. Cael knelt beside her. You are safe. For now, he said. But we cannot stay long. Caldwell's men will search the valley systematically. She looked at him, tears in her eyes. I don't understand. Why me? Why follow me across all this wilderness? Why protect me? Cael's gaze softened, almost imperceptibly. Because what you carry, it is tied to life itself. You do not yet understand, but you must survive, and I will make sure of it. Elena pressed Mateo to her chest, feeling the tiny heartbeat steady beneath her fingers. For the first time, she realized the truth. Survival was no longer just about running. It was about understanding. About preparing for what Caldwell truly wanted. Then we keep moving, Elena said, her voice resolute. No hiding. We face whatever comes next. Cael nodded. Yes, but we must be careful. Not just Trask or Caldwell. There are others who would use this child, use you, for their own gain. The road ahead was uncertain. Every hill and canyon could conceal danger. Every shadow could hide enemies. Yet Elena felt a strange strength, anchored by Cael's protection and Mateo's fragile life. For the first time since the storm, Elena understood that survival was not just about fleeing, it was about standing. Even when the world seemed determined to crush her, and standing meant learning the truth about herself. About Mateo, about the mysterious forces that now shaped their lives. As they trudged into the early morning mist, Elena cast a glance at Cael, whose long black hair hung wet and dark against his broad shoulders. She knew this man would protect them with everything he had, and perhaps, she thought with a flicker of fear and hope, more than anyone ever had before. But even as they moved forward, she could feel Caldwell's shadow stretching over the land, a shadow that promised betrayal, danger, and a revelation that would change everything. The chase was far from over. The storm had passed, but the real battle was only beginning. The sun dipped low over Devil's Pass, casting jagged shadows across the canyon walls. Elena clutched Mateo to her chest, his small face smeared with mud and tears. They had been on the move for 3 days since their last narrow escape, traveling along hidden trails Cael knew instinctively. Every footstep was measured. Every rustle of wind against the rocks a possible signal of enemies lying in wait. Elena, Cael murmured, scanning the ridge above, we are close. Close to what Caldwell wants. And close to ending this. Elena's heart pounded. She did not understand entirely what Caldwell sought, only that it had something to do with Mateo, but instinct told her that whatever it was, It was dangerous enough to have placed them in mortal peril from the moment she fled Santa Fe. Where are we going?" she asked, voice tight. Cael's jaw clenched. "To meet him. Once we confront Caldwell, this will be over or it will end us. But you must stay close to the child. Do not let him out of your sight." They moved through the narrow canyon trails, the wind tugging at Elena's soaked shawl. The canyon walls grew taller, narrower, until they entered a wide clearing that overlooked the valley below. There, in the shadow of the cliffs, stood Caldwell. Tall, gaunt, with piercing gray eyes that seemed to see straight into Elena's soul, he was flanked by Sheriff Trask and several armed men. "Stop!" Caldwell's voice cut across the canyon, cold, commanding, merciless. Elena froze, holding Mateo close. Her small body trembled under his tiny weight, and she felt Cael's hand at her back steadying her. "Do not move," Caldwell said. "The child belongs to me." "Elena Navarro," Trask added, sneering. "Hand him over." "It's over. You cannot run forever." Elena's mind spun. "Belongs to him? Why?" she shouted. "Mateo is my son." Caldwell's eyes glinted. "He carries what I need. Blood of a line you do not even comprehend. Power. A legacy that cannot be broken." Elena's heart stuttered. She had always suspected Mateo's survival was somehow different, but the truth, this was unimaginable. Her small child, the center of her world, carried a secret dangerous enough for men like Caldwell to kill for. Cael stepped in front of her, his presence a living shield. "You will not touch them." His voice was low, deadly, like a growl in the canyon stillness. Caldwell smiled, almost kindly, though it did not reach his eyes. "You do not understand. I am not your enemy, until you refuse me. And now you refuse." "Never," Elena said, firm despite the fear. Mateo stirred, tiny fists clenching at her chest. Trask growled, raising his rifle. Cael's hand shot to his revolver, muscles tensing like coiled steel. "They'll have to get through me," he said. For a moment, the canyon was silent except for the wind whistling through the cliffs and the low cries of Mateo. Then the fight erupted. Trask's men fired, bullets spitting against rock. Cael moved with precision, ducking behind boulders and returning fire, every shot controlled, every movement deadly. Elena pressed Mateo to her chest, sliding behind a rock, her body trembling. But Caldwell did not move. He watched, calm, as if observing a chessboard. "Do you think you can stop me?" he said, voice carrying to the farthest edge of the canyon. "He is mine by right, and you cannot fight fate." Cael gritted his teeth, returning fire with careful aim. "There is no right in killing innocents, and he is not yours to take." Elena peered from her cover. Her mind raced. They could not outrun Caldwell forever. She needed a plan. She glanced at the cliffs above. Narrow ledges, jagged outcroppings. If she could draw Caldwell and Trask up there, Cael could use the terrain to their advantage. "Cael," she whispered, urgency in her voice. "Up there. Lead them to the cliff. We can fight them where they can't surround us." Cael's eyes flicked to the ledges. A spark of understanding. He nodded once. "Do it carefully." Elena rose, exposing herself just enough to lure Trask's men, waving Mateo slightly as bait. "Over here!" she shouted. Caldwell's men surged, but Cael had already moved, his movements a blur of strength and strategy. He intercepted the first wave, disarming 2 men and throwing them off balance. The others followed, drawn to Elena's position. Then, from above, Cael and Elena moved along the cliffside, the rocky ledges treacherous. Trask's men followed, unaware of the drop below. Caldwell's eyes narrowed. "You cannot escape," he shouted, But Elena kept moving. Matteo pressed to her chest, Cael guiding her. A misstep sent one of Trask's men tumbling over the edge, landing with a sickening thud on rocks far below. Panic rippled through the remaining men, and Cael pressed forward, strength and skill unmatched, knocking weapons aside with his bare hands when necessary. Finally, only Caldwell remained, standing on a narrow ledge that gave them no room for escape. Elena's breath came in short, ragged gasps. Matteo's cries pierced the air, and she held him tighter. "Stop this, Caldwell!" Cael shouted. "It ends now." Caldwell's eyes glinted with anger and a twisted satisfaction. "You cannot understand what you are protecting. This child carries the blood of my enemy's line. With him, I control everything. He is the key to legacy and power you cannot even imagine." Elena's mind raced. Legacy? Power? What did it mean? Then she realized the child's survival, her bloodline, something ancient she had no knowledge of, had made Matteo the target. And if Caldwell succeeded, countless lives would be in danger. "Never!" she shouted, her voice breaking with determination. "You will not take him." Caldwell lunged, and Cael intercepted with the strength of a whirlwind. They grappled at the cliff's edge, muscles straining, teeth gritted. Caldwell's desperation grew with each second, but Cael's resolve was immovable, rooted in survival and protection. Finally, with a swift movement, Cael twisted Caldwell's arm behind his back and shoved him backward. Caldwell stumbled, swearing, and fell from the ledge, grabbing a ledge jutting out just enough to halt his fall. The cliff rattled under his weight, but he was alive, eyes wide with fury. "You cannot stop me," he hissed. "This isn't over." Cael stepped back, eyes dark, revolver ready. "It is over for now. You will not touch her. Not ever." Elena held Matteo close, tears running down her cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice was thick with exhaustion, relief, and something she could not name, a bond that had grown through danger, through fear, through life and death. Cael looked at her, his chest heaving, muscles tense, wet hair plastered to his face. "You and the child. You are safe. For now. But you must leave this land soon. Caldwell will return, and he will not forget." Elena nodded, cradling Matteo. "I will go, but not without you." He shook his head slightly, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "This is your life, Elena. I cannot stay in one place for long, but I will always protect you when it matters most." They descended the cliffs, keeping low until the canyon widened, the wind and trees masking their trail. Caldwell was left behind, furious, shouting threats that were carried away by the wind. Trask was unconscious, disarmed, and humiliated. As night fell, Elena finally allowed herself to rest, Matteo sleeping against her chest, calm and safe. Cael sat nearby, his watchful presence unwavering. "Do you know what we just survived?" Elena whispered, voice trembling. Cael shook his head. "I know we survived. That is enough." And in that moment, in the quiet after the storm, after bullets and betrayal, after fear and survival, Elena realized something profound. Life was fragile. Yes, but love for her child, the bond with Cael, the strength she had discovered within herself was unbreakable. She pressed a kiss to Matteo's hair, then looked at Cael. "We're still here. We survived, together." Cael's eyes softened, just slightly, and he nodded. "Together. For now." And as the night sky stretched over Devil's Pass, the stars reflected in the pool at the base of the cliffs, Elena understood. They had faced death, and yet here they were, alive. The storm had passed. The danger was still out there, waiting. But for this moment, she and Matteo and Cael were free. And for the first time, she allowed herself to believe in tomorrow.